Reports coming out that Bruno Guimaraes wants Newcastle move and Arsenal could trigger the £100 million release clause and even throw in Emil Smith Rowe as part of the deal. Olise is very close to a Chelsea move. Reports coming out that personal terms have already been agreed and Chelsea are on the verge of triggering that £60 million release clause. There's so much to get through. The Euros is well and truly underway. Game week 2 is coming. Germany won yesterday. England are on later today. Make sure you go down, drop a like on the video. It helps the channel out massively. And I know the like game on this channel is incredibly strong. So please go down, drop a like right now. It does absolute wonders. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 109 subscribers away from 8,000, which is absolutely ridiculous considering this channel is only, 3 and a bit months old? Right, let's get into it. Bruno Guimaraes, according to reports, Arsenal are prepared to trigger the £100 million release clause. And there's even been some reports that Emil Smith Rowe could be part of this deal. Now, we'll start with Emil Smith Rowe because, I'm a big fan of Emil Smith Rowe. I know I shouldn't because he's an Arsenal player, but I am a big fan. They call him the Croydon De Bruyne. He's still only 23 years of age. It feels like he's been around for forever. He only played 13 Premier League appearances last year, only 3 in the Champions League, only 1 in the FA Cup, 1 in the League Cup, and he come on at the very, very end of the Charity Shield. So overall, he played 19 games, only 346 minutes in that 13 games in the Premier League. He's had loan spells at the likes of Leipzig, Huddersfield, and one other team, but it's never really gone to plan for Emil Smith Rowe. There's abundance of talent there, but whether it's injuries, whether it's not fitting the system, whatever way, it hasn't really worked out for him in an Arsenal shirt. Now, he, of course, is a homegrown player. He's, had 3 appearances for the national team. His contract expires June 30th, 2026. He's played in a number of roles in Arteta. He's played in the 8, he's played in the 10, he's played left wing, he's played right wing. But could he potentially be on his way to Newcastle? Well, it's no, new report that Arsenal are interested in Bruno Guimaraes as well as Manchester City. He does have a £100 million release clause, and there are 2 teams in the league, Arsenal and City, that are the favourites to trigger it. Now, what Arsenal can offer that Manchester City can't is they can, potentially offload Emil Smith Rowe. Now, there's been reports of Manchester City offloading Núñez. Obviously, Smith Rowe is a homegrown player. He's not, the same position as Bruno. Bruno's more of a deeper, more of a number 6, and Emil Smith Rowe does his, best work in the final third. In terms of his stats in an Arsenal shirt, he's only played 115 games, which sounds crazy, but that is not a lot of games for someone that's been there, He's been at the first team now, in and out of the first team over 4 years, I'd say. 18 goals and 13 assists, so a relatively good return, just over 30 GA in 115 games. He's got Champions League experience, he's got Europa League experience, he's got 22 GA in 80 games in the Premier League. But I think it would be best for Emil Smith Rowe and best for Arteta, as well as Arsenal, if he got the move and went and reignited his career elsewhere. I don't necessarily think he's going to get back into the Arsenal team, although I'm a big advocate for, the fact that rotation is very important. I'm a big advocate for, you need a big squad to achieve and win things. And at the moment, it doesn't look like Emil Smith Rowe is going to get back into the Arsenal team. Now, when you look at Newcastle and you look at how Newcastle play, the likes of Bruno Guimaraes has been heavily linked to the move away. I don't necessarily think, as it stands right now, that Alexander Isak will be leaving. If you look at their lineup for their last game of the season, they played a front 3 of Harvey Barnes, Murphy, and Alexander Isak. Now, of course, they've got the likes of Gordon that can play out there as well. Their midfield is pretty settled with a Joelinton, Longstaff, and Bruno Guimaraes. But I do believe that an Emil Smith Rowe would be an upgrade on an Almiron, who looks like he's moving away from Newcastle. I think he'd be an upgrade on Barnes. Barnes for me, he's only had one good season, and it was in that Leicester shirt. And I think he's an upgrade on Murphy. You know, their defense with Kraft, with Shaw, with Byrne, with Hall. They've got some good young players in there, and that you can add another good player. It's just about, can Emil Smith Rowe be fit for 38 games a season? That is the big question mark, because for me, there is no denying his talent. He is a top player when it comes to his talent. He's very, very, very good. He's great at running in from the wing. He's great at beating players in 1v1 situations. He's strong when it comes to chance creation. It's just the big question mark is around his fitness and around his injuries. Now, a player from Newcastle that has been heavily linked to a move to Arsenal, and according to some reports, Bruno Guimaraes prefers Arsenal over Manchester City. Now, I look at the way Arsenal play. You know, they've got that midfield. It's pretty much settled now. Declan Rice will be in the number 8. You know, Martin Odegaard will be in the number 10. Now, it's all about who is going to play in the number 6 role. Now, when you look at Arsenal's games last season, you know, the very end of the season, we saw Thomas Partey coming back fit last game of the season against Everton. You saw a midfield of Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. It's likely now that Partey will get a move away from the Emirates. Does Bruno Guimaraes come in and upgrade him? For me, right now, Partey's coming to the back end of his career at Arsenal. Bruno Guimaraes is only, 24, 25. You look at the way this team plays now, I think Kai Havertz will be the number 9 going into next season. You've obviously got Bukayo Saka, who will be starting on the right, and then you've got healthy competition on that left-hand side between Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli. I do still think they need to bring in a right winger. They're being linked to the likes of Xavi Simons. They're being linked to the likes of Rafinha, Pedro Neto. So it looks like a right winger is their priority. But Thomas Partey is going to be a big hole to replace in this side, because he's been there a number of years now. Thomas Partey, I want to say he's been there. Has he been there 4 years at Arsenal now? Is it 4 years? He joined 2020. So, yeah, so 4 years. He's linked to a move to Galatasaray. He's linked to a move to Fenerbahce. Thomas Partey's linked to a couple of moves to Italian clubs. I think for both parties, it makes sense for the likes of Thomas Partey to move on. Now, Bruno Guimaraes does have a 100 million release clause. He can play number 8. He can play centre mid. He can play a number of positions in that Arsenal team. You know, he's out and out position. He's a DM. He's 26 years of age. He's 27 in November. He played 37 games in the Premier League last season with 15 goal contributions. He played 6 in the Champions League, 4 in the FA Cup, and 3 in the League Cup. So you're looking at, you know, around close to 50 odd games last season. He played 50 games and he got 17 GA, which is very good for a DM. He joined from Lyon back in 2022, I believe. He's linked to a move to City, Arsenal, Al Hilal, PSG. Number of clubs want him. I personally believe he probably chooses Arsenal over Manchester City. You know, he signed a contract extension back in October 2023 and is now heavily linked to Arsenal and Man City. I look at the way Arsenal play. He starts 1,000,000% in an Arsenal team. I don't know where he'd play in the Manchester City team, because they've got the likes of Rodri playing in that number 6 role. And I do think he could play in a number 8 role, but they've also got the likes of Kovacic. They've also got De Bruyne, Foden, Bernardo Silva, you know, Nunez. They've got a number of players that can play in there. Overall, though, I do think he chooses Arsenal over Manchester City. Now, moving away from these clubs, talking about another player has also been linked to Arsenal, and that is Olise. Now, according to Give Me Sport, he has agreed personal terms, and that Chelsea are expecting to trigger that release clause, which is around £60 million. He's going to be a fantastic addition to Chelsea. The way they play, their attacking players next season of the likes of Nkunku, the likes of Jackson, the likes of Cole Palmer, and now you're adding Olise, who, in my opinion, other than Cole Palmer, would be their best forward player. He can play on the right. Now, there's talks of the Chelsea board wanting the likes of Nkunku to play in that number 10 role. So does Cole Palmer potentially go back to the left? I don't really know where Olise is going to play, because Palmer, for me, his best position is on the right. The board went on Nkunku's playing the 10. So maybe could you play Cole Palmer as a false 9? That's another role we're yet to see him playing. I do think he can play that role. I think he's 100% got the capabilities of playing that role. Now, when it comes to the 60 million pound fee at Crystal Palace, this is what's interesting is Tottenham are heavily linked with a move for the likes of Eze. Now, Crystal Palace are not going to sell Gahey. Wharton's linked to a move to City. Olise and Eze in one window. So Chelsea need to move fast. What they've got on their side is Tottenham won't speak to Eze until after the Euros. Olise hasn't gone to the Euros. He's going to the Olympics to represent France, which is after the Copa America, which finishes around middle of July. So as it stands right now, I don't believe that Chelsea, I think they'll get Olise, sorry. I don't believe Tottenham, as it stands, will go and get Eze. So Chelsea have got time on their hands, but they do also have to move fast. They've got their time on their hands because Tottenham have got to wait probably another 3 weeks before we can get the chance to speak to Eze's representatives, because he said he has got full focus on the Euros. Now, one other player that is heavily linked with a move to Tottenham we've spoken about in recent videos is Ivan Toney. Now, it's more looking likely that Tottenham are going to sign the likes of Ivan Toney over other strikers. The likes of Santiago Jimenez is being linked with a move to Arsenal, to Tottenham, but I'm not the biggest fan when it comes to signing forwards out of the Eredivisie. You look at the likes of Victor Janssen, you look at the likes of Anthony in recent years, you look at Steven Bergwijn. Like there is a lot of talent that comes out of that league, but you know Tottenham sent Troy Power over to the Eredivisie, and the guy got 18 GA in his first season, and he couldn't even score 10 goals in the Championship. So it just shows you that when you play for Feyenoord, PSV, or Ajax, the rest of the league, the drop-off in quality is quite significant. So as it stands right now, I do believe that as it stands, you know, a Santiago Jimenez isn't the best of players to really go out there and attract the big clubs. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel. Make sure you do like the video. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching.